Good evening, you're watching To The Point. I'm Preeti Choudhry. We are witnessing civil defense drills, mock drills. Sirens are going to blare post-1971. We're getting war ready. But are we really going to war? We're going to try and get in some answers on that. First up, allow me to take you through the headlines. India gets ready for civil defense drills. Citizens to get safety training and protocol to follow. Drills on how to navigate during blackouts to be held. Back-to-back huddles chaired by Prime Minister. Modi meets National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Second meeting between the last 24 hours. Pakistan named and shamed at the UN. Closed door, open insult for Pakistan. Nations corner Pakistan on Pahalgam massacre. Pakistan Army attacked in Balochistan. IED attack on Pak Army vehicle. 6 soldiers killed in explosion. Domestic politics continues to brew post-Pahalgam. Congress Chief Kharge, big claims as Prime Minister dropped Jammu and Kashmir visit 3 days before attack. BJP accuses Congress of double-speak on terror. Amidst raging tariff war, India and UK finalize historic free trade agreement along with a double contribution convention. All right, the big news break coming in right on the top of 7 p.m. India has found support in Qatar. Prime Minister Modi has spoken to the Emir of Qatar on the phone, and Qatar has expressed solidarity with India. Qatar backs India's fight against terror. Mind you, viewers, Qatar has been a strong ally of Pakistan, so it's a statement of support to India is very, very significant. The Ministry of External Affairs has said in a telephonic conversation with the Prime Minister today, the Emir of the State of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, conveyed condolences and solidarity with the people of India at the loss of lives in the cross-border terror attack in Pahalgam. He expressed full support in India's fight against terrorism and all its actions to bring the perpetrators to justice. The Prime Minister thanked the Emir of Qatar for the clear message of solidarity and support. We have put this in perspective. India is getting tremendous amount of international support, and now countries that have largely been seen as allies of Pakistan also openly coming up and siding where India is concerned. This news break of significance, especially on where India is standing today, what we are seemingly looking. All right, let's, more breaking news right now coming in. Air sirens in Firozpur have been witnessed. This is, of course, part of the security drill. Let's listen in.
बड़ा important एक लोकेशन है भारत-पाकिस्तान के बॉर्डर के ऊपर. आप सुन सकते हैं कि एक बड़ा इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सायरन जो है, जिसकी 5 किलोमीटर तक आवाज जा रही है, ये लगाया गया है. एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ने फैसला किया था कि आज इसको बजाया जाएगा. 7 से लेकर 7:15 तक इसको बजाया जाएगा बीच-बीच में, ताकि कल जो है कोलकाता ही ना हो. कल 9 बजे से लेकर 9:30 बजे तक पूरे फिरोजपुर में ब्लैकआउट रहेगा, ड्रिल्स रहेंगी. लेकिन यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हैं कल जैसे एमएचए की गाइडलाइन है कि 7 मई को पूरी जगह पर पूरे देश में मॉक ड्रिल्स हों. यहाँ फिरोजपुर बॉर्डर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में जो सायरेंस हैं वो टेस्ट किए जा रहे हैं, टेस्ट सायरेंस किए जा रहे हैं, और ये डेफिनेटली एक सिचुएशन
Sirens blaring in Firozpur, Punjab. It's one of the districts that has been put on high alert where these mock security civil defense drills are being carried out. All of this, of course, is an exercise for the mock drill, which is to actually take place tomorrow. But for many in India, one would recall 50 years ago when sirens blared, where the Indo-Pak war in 1971 was concerned. So we hark back to about 53 years ago. And that would be a memory for some in India today, where this mock drill, right now, this is a mock for the mock drill that is going to take place tomorrow. So preparations for that mock drill that is going to take place tomorrow, the 7th of May. India clearly getting war ready, viewers. But is India anywhere close to a war? We don't want to sound alarmist. This is not an attempt to spread panic. But what many suggest is that the last time India witnessed any of the standard operating wartime protocol was in the year 1971. And this is practically the apt time, if at all we see a retaliatory response from Pakistan, that especially the civilians should be ready for it. And that's exactly what you see unfold. There, I'm sure, a sense of apprehension. We don't want to spread panic. India is not going to war, but all of these are measures in place to be war ready. I want to connect right now to my colleague Gaurav Sawant, managing editor in the studio with me, is also senior journalist Sandeep Unithan. Gaurav, I would reckon the last time silence blared across India was in the year 1971, over 50 years ago. All of this, we are preparing, we are getting war ready. That doesn't really mean we are going to war.
So there's a saying in the Indian Air Force, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. This is learning how to operate in a war-like situation, because civilians must know what they need to do. Soldiers know there are drills that they follow. There are standard operating procedures for soldiers to follow. These are standard operating procedures for civilians that they will hear of for the first time. The moment you hear the siren, where do you head to? The nearest if there's a bunker in that area, if there's a metro station, head to that underground metro station. If there's a multi-storied building, head to the basement. That is how you're safe. If none of that's available, go to any place where you can keep yourself safe, from shrapnel. Often what the Pakistanis do, or in what is done in war, is use an air burst that, a bomb explodes in the air, and thousands of red-hot pieces of metal come flying down at amazing velocity, hundreds of kilometers per hour. And if they pierce your shoulder, your hand's blown off. If they pierce your head, unfortunately, you could be killed. So you should know where to cover yourself, where to hide, till the time an all-clear air raid siren goes.
Once again, I want to underline that. This is not an attempt to spread panic. This is not, we're not being alarmist at all. But there are generations in this country, Sandeep, that haven't really seen a war-like situation where India is concerned. The last time, and we can't reiterate enough, that sirens blared, blackouts happened, people looked for shelter, was in the year 1971. So all of this is just standard operating procedure if we ever enter a situation like this.
Absolutely, Preeti. And, let's not forget that military people are trained, they're drilled, they know the drill, they know the SOPs, they know what to do if there's a air burst, as Gaurav mentioned, or if there's an air raid. They know how to take cover. But civilians don't know to do that. And as you said, it's been 50 years since Indian civilians have done these drills, at least in these large numbers. So what I call this is preparing themselves for any kind of eventuality. I would call it panic inoculation, Preeti. I mean, you're inoculating the general public, especially in those 240-odd districts. You're inoculating them against panic. So if, in case, God forbid, if there is an attack of this kind, let's not forget that we're facing a very unpredictable enemy. If there is an attack, if there's an air bust, if there's a missile attack, an air raid, any of that, the civilians, at least in all of these designated districts, know exactly what to do. They know the drill, they know how to take cover, they know which air raid shelter to go into, which bunker to go into, how to keep themselves safe, and most importantly, prevent panic.
And that's exactly, why these exercises are being followed across the country. Tomorrow is going to be a mock drill in various districts of the country across all states, viewers. This is just in preparation that we are war ready. We are definitely not in a war situation just yet or anywhere close to it. But once again, to give you perspective on why we are going through these security drills, why we are actually educating our citizens to, take care of themselves if we ever at all enter a war-like situation, these are the reasons. Sirens, blackouts, mock security drills, civil defense. The last time the country was witness to this was 1971, the Indo-Pak War 54 years ago. Not an attempt to spread panic, not to sound alarmist, but to be prepared. From air raid warning signs to blackouts and shelters, the mock drills will test operational efficacy in vulnerable districts and train the civilian population. Most of the present generation has never seen a war, and the exercise is meant to educate the masses of the utmost importance of wartime standard operating procedure. While India is clearly getting war ready, does it mean India could be headed to war? No, India is not officially going to war yet. But it is preparing for a possible military response. Here are the key indications that suggest in the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack, India may be preparing for military action, though not a full-scale war. India has suspended the Indus Water Treaty, a serious diplomatic signal. Pakistan has responded with military posturing and threats. Cross-border exchanges at the LOC have intensified. India has mobilized forces, but so far these remain defensive deployments. What government sources say, India pushing for never-seen grave military action, but not a full-scale war. Any military action is likely to be targeted and limited. What has been the global response so far? Countries like US, France, Russia, and even the United Nations have called for restraint where war is concerned. India has received immense diplomatic support. So if India is not looking at a full-scale war, then why are civil defense drills taking place across the country? Does India suspect a counter-retaliation by Pakistan after its own military action? Pakistan has already deemed the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty as an act of war. While India might be getting ready for a war-like scenario, it is still far from war. However, what is imminent is a confrontation with Pakistan, and it's coming soon. The next few days will be critical in shaping what happens next. Top story on To The Point this evening. So viewers, definitely not war, but what is imminent is a confrontation with Pakistan. The next few days will be critical, is the information and responsible information that we want to give out. But having said that, tomorrow there will be civil defense drills, security drills across the country. I just want to take you through on what to expect, because you will be hearing sirens blare where it comes down to various top cities, and the national capital would be right on top. So if you're in Delhi, even if you're in Mumbai, Amritsar, Chandigarh, and Chennai, Jaipur, so all of these cities, tomorrow you will hear sirens. So do not panic. We don't want to be sounding alarmist at all. These are just preparations that we need to put in place just to be ready, just in case. Because like I pointed out, viewers, that generations in this country haven't witnessed a war-like situation. So it's always better to be equipped and safe, to know exactly what you need to do. So keep an eye if you are in any of these cities. In all probability, you will hear sirens. You will have civil defense drills taking place across these cities. Be glued in on what you need to do as well. All right, I want to now take you through the nationwide civic defense drills, key ports and nuclear sites, where all it's going to take place. We're going to put it right behind me. And I want to introduce once again, I have with me Gaurav Sawant, our managing editor, senior journalist. Sandeep Unithan is with me. We are also joined by Professor Brahmachalani, who's a strategic affairs expert. I want to cut across to Gaurav first. Gaurav, once again, would you want to take us through all these areas, districts, cities that tomorrow will witness a mock security drill?
So while there's an agreement between India and Pakistan that the nuclear installations will not be targeted, and both countries exchange lists every 1st of January of their nuclear power stations, but whether it's Rabar in Rajasthan or Kakarpur in Gujarat or Uranport in Maharashtra or Kalpakam in Tamil Nadu.
What's the importance of all of these?
They either are nuclear power stations or very important ports. Though the nuclear power plants you see...
Kakarpur, Gujarat, Rawat Rajasthan, nuclear.
You generate nuclear energy there. Across the country, these Kalpakam, for example, or Tarapur in Maharashtra, Pakistan should not target that because... and similarly, we will not target them where their nuclear power plants are. That's an agreement. Should Pakistan violate it, it's a grave escalation.
So there's going to be, tomorrow we're also going to see civil defense drills in all these areas.
That's right.
But
border districts especially... Border districts especially, but beyond borders, even in depth areas and built-up areas, these exercises happen.
Sandeep, I want to bring you in. You know, the fact is we're going through all of this. Now, this is, okay, standard operating procedure. We need to go through this, especially where our civilians are concerned. But why are we doing it? Because we are not in a war-like situation. It didn't happen during Kargil. It happened some 23 years ago in 1971. Yes. Why are we getting war ready when we're not near war right now?
We're getting war ready. In fact, Preeti, there's a very important point that you raised. This is something that we should have been doing as a matter of course for the last 50 years. We haven't been doing that now, despite all of those, wars that we fought, border wars, Kargil, we saw deployment in Parakram. Despite all of that, we did not prepare our citizenry for this kind of an eventuality, that there could be a possibility of our unpredictable border adversary lobbing a missile or, staging an airstrike or something of that sort. This is to prepare our population for that eventuality, that if it so happens, if Pakistan takes that extremely stupid step of attacking an Indian population area, this is to protect our civilians so that they know what to do, what the drill is. And this is something that most countries in the world do as a matter of course, especially countries that face imminent threats from nuclear-armed neighbors. We've seen that all through the Cold War. I've had friends who've lived through the Cold War in Europe and in the United States doing all of these drills on a regular basis. They didn't think much of it. But here we are today.
It's after 50 years.
It's
so,
after 50
there's
years.
a sense of panic.
Yes.
If I may, we actually had an ostrich-like attitude. We bury our head in sand and we think there is no threat.
That's why there are no bunkers.
There is clear and present danger of Pakistanis who've bled us year after year. Take, for example, as Sandeep and I were just discussing, 1993 blast, 257 people died. 206, train attacks, 200 people died. 2611, 166 people died. So Pakistan continues to bleed you, but you think, oh, civilians are safe, nothing will happen. Civilians are being killed more than service personnel. Pakistan knows that, but it also knows that we don't wake up to that threat. Now, finally, we are waking up to that threat.
But this is also slightly different because we're preparing for a war-like situation. I want to bring in Professor Brahmachalani into this conversation. Professor, could this also be a reason that, no, we are not getting into a war-like situation, but we are allowing and making our citizens get ready for a war-like situation because India is going to escalate. There will be, some military action. Now, is this because India suspects that there could be a counter-retaliatory action from Pakistan, therefore keep your population and your citizenry ready?
You're right. Conducting security drills is part and parcel of enhanced defenses. Because India doesn't face a normal state. Pakistan is not a normal state. It's a state that actually can be called a rogue state. It's a state where the military and the ISI agency are not accountable to the government in power. They've never been accountable to any civilian government. So it's an abnormal state, a state whose very foundational basis is based on hatred toward India. And that state can do anything. And that's the reason why enhanced preparedness, including in the form of civil defense drills, is essential for strengthening India's defenses.
All right. And, so Gaurav, is that the main reason? Because the government response till now has been that it's going to be never seen like before action. But with what we are picking up from the government sources very clearly seems to suggest it's going to be limited action. We are not getting into a war-like situation. There will be never seen before action, but it will be limited. Yet we are preparing our citizens for what could be a retaliatory action.
So when you look at Pakistan, like Professor Brahmachalani and Sandeep were pointing out, abnormal state continues to bleed India. How do we react? Either we can open up the LC and keep firing artillery like was done in 2001, 2 and all along. And symbolically your people are satisfied, fine, some action has been taken, but you're not safe. You can do an Uri surgical strike. Yes, some message gone across, but you're not exactly safe. Or when after the parliament attack, you did the Operation Parakram. 10 months you were at borders, but no war. Sends across a message, but you're not safe. You do a Balakot. Rest of the country is safe, but not Jammu and Kashmir. That continues to bleed. So now it has to be something more than Balakot. Do keep in mind, Preeti, in this entire war matrix, there are 44 rungs of escalation. For these 44 rungs, we are on rung 3 right now. Pakistan,
so we're nowhere close to war right now.
We're nowhere close to a nuclear war. Pakistan.
Okay, 44 is nuclear.
And beyond, and complete annihilation of people. But right now, we are on stage 3, where they've used non-state actors to bleed you. Your skirmishes
What stage is a full-fledged war?
Stage 5 is full-fledged conventional war.
So we are 2 steps behind, Sandeep, from a full-fledged conventional war?
It seems like, Preeti, and this is something that we'll have to judge by, how the government of India responds now to Pakistan's cross-border terror attack, and whether there is going to be some kind of escalation dominance mechanism that's built into that kind of an attack. An escalation dominance mechanism would imply a strike that is so overwhelming that the adversary does not have a chance to retaliate to that. And that is something that we've done in 16, we've done in 2019 as well. So this is something that we'll have to watch out for. It all depends on what path the government of India chooses to strike at Pakistan. And that will determine the next rungs in the ladder that Gaurav just outlined.
I want to bring in Professor Brahmachalani back into this conversation. We're going to, lose him in the next 5 minutes. He needs to go somewhere. But Professor, to weigh in on this, India right now not looking at what is a full-fledged traditional war, far from it, but what India anticipates could be the counter-reaction to whatever India is planning.
Well, a full-fledged war is not in the offing because there is no broad military mobilization in India, no movement of troops and heavy weaponry to the border. So what we're looking at is a surgical option that is somewhat overwhelming and helps to impose deterrent costs on Pakistan. But I think one point that we need to bear in mind that under successive governments, as Gaurav was pointing out, India has faced major Pakistan-sponsored terrorist attacks. Yet government after government has hesitated to impose tangible costs on Pakistan. So the more powerful country has behaved and acted as if it's the weaker state vis-a-vis Pakistan. Imagine if Pakistan's power situation was equal to that of India. It would have inflicted far greater harm on India. But this weaker state, much smaller state, has been bleeding India for decades now. And today we should be asking a fundamental question. Whatever India does under Prime Minister Modi, will it represent a paradigm shift from the approach thus far? If it represents a paradigm shift, then of course, this will mean a major challenge for Pakistan. But looking ahead, effectively countering Pakistan's decades-long cross-border terrorism requires a sustained, coordinated, and multi-pronged strategy. What happens is that after every major attack, we have a debate. We debate what options India has, and then the government and the country go back to business as usual. This time it has to change. This time we have to recognize that the only way to fight Pakistan's terrorism is through a sustained, coordinated, and multi-pronged strategy. Instead of Pakistan bleeding India, we should start bleeding Pakistan now on a continuing basis.
One quick question, Professor, before we let you go. So this deterrence that you're speaking of, that India clearly needs to build with never-seen-before action, could possibly result in what we are actually preparing for now back home?
Yes, we are preparing to impose deterrent costs on Pakistan, costs that are so strong, so powerful, that we'll be able to buy peace for some time at least, if not forever. And to prepare for this scenario, we are building up international and diplomatic pressure on Pakistan. We are strengthening border security at the moment. We are engaging, as you have pointed out, civil defense drills as part of strengthened defenses. And while maintaining strong military deterrence, we are planning targeted operations that will rely on precise intelligence. They will rely on execution that is done in such a way as to prevent major escalation. At the same time, we are also looking at covert operations with plausible deniability, even as targeted strikes are being considered.
All right, Professor, appreciate you joining us. Thank you there. Sandeep and Gaurav, I'll bring you back into this conversation. Sandeep, so one thing is very clear because, there is a sense of hyperbole and, panic that we're looking to go into war. And maybe that's why all of this is happening, where the citizens are concerned. That needs to be laid to rest immediately because we would have seen a very different, scenario. Indications would be different, like Professor said. The movement of troops and armored tanks would be very, very different than what we are seeing now. So if we're going to be seeing a surgical strike, limited intervention, at what scale would it be larger than what we've seen before?
It would possibly be multiple coordinated strikes, Preeti. That's all that I can decipher from, the rhetoric of the leaders or our leaders over the last couple of days, where they've, suggested that this would be very different from the last time because the scale of this outrage was that civilians were targeted for the first time. After many, many years, you had civilians that were segregated and they were brutally murdered. Their religion was asked and then they were targeted based on that. And this is a first time. And the government of India is determined to make sure that this is going to be that one trigger point for us to basically target that terrorist infrastructure of Pakistan, that infrastructure of terrorism in Pakistan that exists under the shelter of the nuclear weapons that Pakistan has brandished against us for almost 4 decades now. So the government believes that this is possibly that one opportunity now to completely dismantle that and give us that lease of life for the next couple of years, at least, as Professor Chelani was mentioning, that this could be now or never, literally.
Okay, I need to go into a break, but viewers, with what Sandeep said, what Professor Brahmachalani said, and what Gaurav said, because you're dealing with a rogue nation, you don't know how they're going to respond. So even though you're not getting into a full-fledged war where you're attacking their civilians, at least right now, that's what it seems to suggest. You don't know how Pakistan and the dispensation there is going to respond. So that is why.
Last 2 seconds, if you do.
Quickly.
The enemy cannot react just with words. He needs weapons.
Right.
Does he have weapons? He's sold off a lot of his weapons to Ukraine to make money. Can he buy new weapons? Can he sustain a war beyond 4 or 5 days? That's the big question, and you can sustain it for months. Remember 1971, India had 9 months to prepare. We could take 9 months right now.
Gaurav, with what we just spoke of, India might not want to go into a full-fledged war, but is India war ready is the big question.
Look, India is preparing for a message that needs to be delivered to a radical Islamist state sponsor of terror. Pakistan, whatever way it needs to be done, whether it's done through an airstrike like in Balakot, through a surgical strike like in Uri, or Abki Baar Nausena ka Var. Look at the amount of ships that we already have in the Arabian Sea. Look at our P-8Is, which are a long-range maritime reconnaissance aircraft. It's like a flying frigate. It's like a flying warship. It can deliver anti-submarine warfare. It can target ships in the Arabian Sea. So nothing in Pakistan, nothing. Pakistan has about a 1,000-kilometer long coastline, very narrow. Sandeep can correct me if I'm wrong. It's about 1,045-kilometer long coastline, and it has just 5 major ports. Gwadar and Karachi being the bigger one, Ormara and Pasni being the other ones, and a couple of others, right? India can, all of it is in India's crosshairs, all of it simultaneously. Point one. Point two, when their ships sail out into the Arabian Sea, the P-8Is, the Sea Guardians are drones, the UCAVs, the ships, the submarines, they can take Pakistan down worse. And Sandeep can tell you how Pakistan Navy was destroyed in harbour and barely at sea in 71. Pakistan needs to, perhaps see 71 2.0.
Sandeep, is India war ready vis-a-vis Pakistan? Because Pakistan is also preparing to go into war.
Right. Preeti, well, India is war ready, but it is not planning a conventional military offensive.
Which
or
we
not
said,
even,
yeah.
yes, not even like a cold start kind of general mobilization of the armed forces. What seems to be the case is that there possibly could be one or more surgical strikes. It could be delivered from the air, it could be delivered from the ground, it could be delivered from the sea or even under the sea, or it could be a combination of all of these. So you're looking at creating an atmosphere of unpredictability. All of these movements by the military, by our military, the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, all of that, all of this is meant to create a fog of uncertainty.
There is no war but the fog of war.
There is a fog. It is some kind of a curtain that has been erected all around Pakistan. And through that curtain, that unpredictability, the curtain of unpredictability, the actual strikes will come through. That is where we expect these multiple, one or more or many strikes could converge onto Pakistan.
I'm going to go across to General Sharma, but General Sharma, just stay with me because India's fought five wars till now. 4 of them have been with Pakistan. And viewers, in all 4 of them, Pakistan has walked off with a bloody nose. Take a look. While tensions escalate between India and Pakistan at the back of the Pahalgam terror attack and now an anticipated military retaliation by India, it is worth noting, India has fought 5 major wars since independence in 1947, along with several smaller military operations and conflicts. And out of the 5 wars, 4 have been with Pakistan. Here is a breakdown. 1947-48, First Kashmir War. The cause: Pakistan-backed tribals infiltrated into Jammu and Kashmir post-partition. The result: ceasefire brokered by the UN. Kashmir divided between India, Jammu and Kashmir and Pakistan. POK, Pakistan-occupied Kashmir.
On 28th October, the raiders began to stream out of Baramulla towards Srinagar. At 9 in the morning, when the first clashes took place, Lieutenant Colonel Ranjit Rai and his men were thoroughly outnumbered. The A and B Company of the 1 Sikh Regiment landed in Srinagar on the 28th afternoon and rushed to the aid of the defenders. By late evening, the situation had become critical for the Indians. The raiders had been beaten back time and again, but they regrouped and launched an all-out attack as the 1 Sikh Regiment made a fighting withdrawal towards Srinagar. Lieutenant Colonel Rai, who was supervising the withdrawal, fell in battle, one of the first martyrs to the war in Kashmir.
(1965) Second Kashmir War. Cause: Pakistan's Operation Gibraltar, infiltration into Kashmir. Result: India had a decisive tactical upper hand. Tashkent Agreement signed under Soviet mediation. 1971, Indo-Pak War and Bangladesh liberation. Cause: Pakistan's crackdown in East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. India supported the Mukti Bahini. Result: decisive Indian victory. Over 90,000 Pakistan troops surrendered. Outcome: creation of Bangladesh. Simla Agreement signed post the war.
On 16th December 1971, at around 4:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, Lieutenant General Amir Abdullah Khan Niazi, Martial Law Administrator and Commander of the Eastern Command, Pakistan, attached his signature to a 1-page document.
Under the command of Lieutenant General J.S.
A minute later, Lieutenant General Jagjit Singh Arora, General Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the India and Bangladesh forces in the Eastern Theatre, countersigned the instrument of surrender.
Signed the instrument of surrender and placed himself and
1,500 kilometers away, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi announced in Parliament, Dhaka is now the free capital of a free country.
1999 Kargil War. Cause: Pakistani soldiers and militants infiltrated into Indian positions in Kargil. India's response: Operation Vijay to reclaim occupied territory. Result: India regained lost ground. Global diplomatic support went to India. Pakistan faced international criticism.
Lieutenant Kalia and his patrol were captured and killed because they had seen the intruders. The Northern Light Infantry were taking no chances. While successive foot patrols and chopper reconnaissance by the Indian Army did find proof of incursions, it was not till the middle of May 1999 that the larger picture became clear.
Initially, we thought it was just the infiltrators, the Mujahideen. But then, as you know, we started launching a series of probing attacks. We found that it was not the Mujahideen, it was the regular Pakistan army.
This was no ordinary infiltration, but a full-scale occupation. And the Indian Army needed to retake those positions with force. The ferocity of the Indian artillery response was unprecedented. No single piece of artillery proved more valuable in the assault than the Bofors FH-77B 155mm howitzer.
Other conflicts and standoffs include 1984 Siachen conflict. India occupied key glacial positions in Operation Meghdoot to preempt Pakistan. Low-intensity conflict still continues. 2001 to 2002, Parliament attack and the subsequent standoff. The Indian Parliament was attacked by Pakistan-based terrorists Jaish-e-Mohammed. India mobilized troops in Operation Parakram. No war, but high alert lasted months. 2016, Uri attack and surgical strikes. Terror attack on Indian Army camp in Uri, Jammu and Kashmir. India launched cross-border surgical strikes on terror camps. 2019, Pulwama attack and the Balakot airstrikes. Suicide bombing killed 40 CRPF personnel. India conducted airstrikes in Balakot. Aerial dogfight followed. Wing Commander Abhinandan captured, later released. So that was Pulwama, viewers. What after Pahalgam is the big question, because with all that you have seen, the whole chronology of war and battles with Pakistan, Pakistan every time has walked off with a bloody nose. Things many would suggest are very different. Then there was a full-fledged conventional war in 1971. What is India planning? Let's cut across to Lieutenant General Sharma, who's with us, as well as Gaurav and Sandeep in the studio with me. General Sharma, the whole chronology of India's conflict with Pakistan, every time India has walked away, with the upper hand, even though Pakistan was the one who started it. This time around, the last time India fought a conventional war was 1971. Things are very, very different. How would you gauge India's stand today?
Thank you for inviting me, and good seeing Gaurav and Sandeep today. Now, see, you missed out on Zulfikar Ali Bhutto saying in United Nations in 1965 that they will fight a 1,000-year war. You also missed out in this documentary about Bhutto saying that there will be war with 1,000 cuts, which Ziaul Haq propelled. And this 1,000-year war and 1,000 cuts is what is being the war that is ongoing. So the grammar of war doesn't include these 5-6 terrorist actions that you counted. It's a continuous war that is on for last 35 odd years. And there is no relenting on it. It is well planned, it is well orchestrated, and it does include part of some of these major incidents that have happened, like, for example, the dastardly attack on Pahalgam. In last year, there was no attack of this kind, but the 127 casualties. So, you can imagine that the war is on continuously, except that war is having 2 to 3 casualties at a time. So they don't get added together to say a major war is on. But when you count it together over a period of time, in 2001, we had 4,000 casualties in 1 year. So, there is this war of thousand. And, while we have been nice and there have been great diplomatic niceties, there have been CBMs, there have been very ways to improve people to people contact. Even now, we have been allowing their patients to come for treatment to India, and people to people contact has been on. Despite all that is happening, despite all niceties, the Pakistan has not relented on this 1,000 cuts and 1,000-year war, because they find all this the gestures that we make as a show of softness. So, let's understand it, that whatever happens now, this war is going to continue for a longer time.
Do you see that?
What do we want? What
Go
do
ahead,
we
sir.
want now?
Yes.
You tell me, do we want retribution or we want strategic deterrence? And strategic deterrence which will affect for a longer period of time. The previous 2 surgical strikes in Balakot did not provide a strategic deterrence. For a short while, there was a problem, but then, number of casualties happening in counter-terrorist operations continued in a similar manner after 2016 and 2019. We need to create a strategic deterrence, and that's the aim. And this here I end by saying that grammar of war needs change. Grammar of war is not surgical strikes or a Balakot strike or minuscule action. We have to change the grammar of war, which actually includes IWT, which actually includes many other actions being taken, becomes a total grammar of war. War is not only Army, Navy, and Air Force. And I'll end by saying, war is still war. Conventional war, force and force, is yet not guaranteed that's going to happen. It is just a possibility that it could happen like that.
True, General. We're going to come right back to you. Gaurav, do you concur? Because I think India is already taking that stand to build that deterrence, and we can see that happening because the kind of international pressure India is trying to build to try and economically isolate Pakistan, and of course, the military and the diplomatic strikes that it's already contemplated.
So far, the biggest action India has taken, and in the way perhaps some of us would look at it, only Prime Minister Narendra Modi could have done it, is Indus Waters Treaty, holding it in abeyance. Imagine even when 1971 was happening, you didn't hold it in abeyance. You didn't do it in 65. You didn't do it in Kargil. You didn't do it any other time. You've done it now. That's a huge signal. That is actually pressing Pakistan's jugular vein. You've pressed it, and now Pakistan knows. They may admit it, they may not admit it. There are consequences for Pakistan in the short term. There are major consequences for Pakistan in the medium term. And it is a disaster if they continue in the long term. They are anyway a water-starved country, and now you're starving it, even further. And not using water as a weapon. You're simply saying, we'll give you water, just stop shedding our blood. If he still wants to shed your blood, he can't expect your water.
Sandeep, would you reckon with what Gaurav said? Because Pakistan did admit it, because Pakistan called the abeyance of the Indus Water Treaty as an act of war. And how will a rogue state now react, especially after India answers back militarily?
Yeah, well, Preeti, I want to first go back to what General Rakesh Sharma mentioned, the fact that the 1,000-year war rhetoric that Pakistan has been talking about. I don't know about 1,000 years, that's in the realm of fantasy, but we definitely have been facing a war from Pakistan for almost 80 years. You're looking at one of the world's longest periods of war, starting from 1947, where the Pakistan army does not reconcile to this reality of Kashmir, and they've been fighting wars using covert means. They used tribal raiders in 1947-48, funded and backed by the Pakistan military. The Pakistan army enters the picture. 65, a similar modus operandi of Gibraltar and Grand Slam. 71, they instigated war against India and they lost Bangladesh. 99, they again used the 1965 and 47 stratagem to infiltrate Northern Light Infantry into Kargil. At every point, they've been instigating conflict since 1947. So this is clearly you're faced with a rogue army. And today with General Asim Munir taking over, who sees himself as some kind of successor to General Zia with the kind of obnoxious statements that he's making, we are truly faced with a very, very serious challenge.
Because how Pakistan is now going to react whenever India strikes is going to be very unpredictable.
Absolutely.
So, you know, Pakistan may be unpredictable. We have to be even more unpredictable. You know, can I tell you something about Pakistan Army? It is the difference between Hafiz Saeed and Asim Munir is the fact that Asim Munir wears a uniform. Otherwise, they're exactly the same. The difference between Hafiz Saeed and, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is that Bilawal Bhutto Zardari comes from a political family, but they speak exactly the same language. You know, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari in a very different manner, but he's saying exactly the same thing, that if water does not flow, blood will flow. That's Hafiz Saeed's language, but they speak the same language.
The facade of civility was long shorn, you know, and because it is a rogue state.
Look at the way the commentators are saying that Indian women, Indian actresses are male ghanimat for them. So that is Pakistani civil society. They want to take Indian women as sex slaves after that war with India. So that is that radical Islamist mindset that Indians need to understand. It's a rogue radical Islamist terror state.
I want to bring in General Sharma back into this conversation. General Sharma, till now, what India's approach been of late, the diplomatic sanctions that we've imposed, especially where, Gaurav spoke about the Indus Water Treaty events. Is India on the right path? Are we looking at, at least the trajectory we've followed since Pahalgam? Because you did speak of, do we want retribution or do we want deterrence? Are we looking deliverance in terms of deterrence?
So, right. Rightly so. If we want to do business well, we should seek strategic deterrence. Retribution will be automatic. Retribution is already been achieved by the waters of Chenab not reaching Marala headworks. You know, normally time 35 million cubics of water reaches Marala headworks from Chenab every day. And now it has dropped down to 3,000. So there is already a damage being done to Marala headworks, to the Kharif crops, which require water now. So there is already a war on, a serious war on, especially along Chenab. And once we start doing work on Wular Lake, well, then it will affect Jhelum. Okay. So, the work is on. The war is on in many ways, and let's accept it like that. All right, now, I agree with what Gaurav is saying and what Sandeep was saying, but I like to add, as a military man, nobody likes a war. War is a senseless business.
True.
And we should not allow an escalation to a full-fledged war and control the escalation as far as possible. But having said that, never try and belittle your enemy. While the chief of army staff may be talking about rotten language, but Pakistan Army per se is a trained army. They are well equipped. They also have collusion with China. China provides them whole lot of satellite imagery and battlefield transparency they are providing, and maybe AWACS and aircrafts, etc., etc. So it's a professional army. When we go on war with Pakistan, it must be taken in that manner, that they have a credible force, and now we have much larger conventional force. That's why he keeps talking tactical nuclear weapons, because he knows overall he doesn't have this capability to sustain a war. But we must not write off and the opponent saying, oh, kuch nahi hai, and we can just sort it out. That's not the
very
right
credible point, General. Very credible point. And nobody really wants war. And I think coming from an army veteran who's fought 2 wars, I can say that my father's done that in 65 and 71. But Sandeep, I want to bring you in on this with what the General also said. Do not underestimate Pakistan. And I think that would be very, very important.
Absolutely. And that is something that we've learned to our great peril in 1998. When we went, when Prime Minister Vajpayee went on that Lahore bus yatra and he was stabbed in the back by the Pakistan state and General Pervez Musharraf, when they gave us Kargil in return for Lahore. When you have every few years, you have the Indian politician who comes wanting good relations with Pakistan, because that is who we are, essentially. We want peace, we want stability, we want economic progress. But we are faced with an unrelenting, unyielding foe who does not want peace, prosperity. He only wants your destruction. That is what the Pakistan military embodies today.
Right. That's all the time we have for. Gaurav, you wanted to come in? You have like 10 seconds.
Just 10 seconds. There are many ways to defeat Pakistan without fighting a full-fledged conventional war. And that is to break Pakistan Army's back. They are a multi-billion-dollar military, business empire. You break down their business, that army cannot fight.
Which India started to do already.
And Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, they've got many fault lines. Just exploit those fault lines, that country will collapse.
All right. Okay. With that, that's the end of this particular broadcast. Thank you for our viewers for joining us. Once again, I want to make it clear, viewers, India is not going to war. So the sirens that you will hear tomorrow, the civil defense exercises that you see tomorrow are not to be, it's not alarmist, it's not to create panic, it's just to educate you because, viewers, there have been generations in this country that haven't seen a war-like situation. We are not in war, but we need to be prepared for one. That's it. We leave it at that. Thank you for joining us.